many remember Bionicle as the toy phenomenon that dominated the 2000s, captivating us with its iconic figures, epic commercials, and unforgettable merchandise. But Bionicle wasn't just about the toys or the merch, it was the story behind them that sparked the mania. The lore of Bionicle is nothing short of legendary, and it's no wonder this franchise saved LEGO from the brink of bankruptcy. At first glance, the story begins with a simple premise. Biomechanical beings like the Matoran and Toa living in a world that blends tribal culture with advanced technology, their true origins shrouded in mystery. But as we'll uncover, Bionicle's layers of storytelling peel back to reveal a sprawling universe filled with twists, turns, and one of the most jaw-dropping reveals in fiction. Prepare to dive into the epic saga of Bionicle, a tale as intricate and unique as the figures themselves. Without further ado, let us begin. Gathered friends, listen again to our legend of the Bionicle. In the time before time, the Great Spirit descended from the heavens, carrying the ones called the Matoran to a paradise home. They were separate and without purpose, so the Great Spirit illuminated them with the three virtues: unity, duty, and destiny. They embraced these gifts, and in gratitude, they named their island home Mata Nui, after the Great Spirit himself. But their happiness was not to last. For Mata Nui's brother, the Makuta, was jealous of these honors. He betrayed him, casting a spell over Mata Nui, who fell into a deep slumber. The Makuta was free to unleash his shadows, and unleash them he did. From his lair deep beneath the surface, Makuta Teridax corrupted the natural order. He unleashed his influence through the Rahi, creatures once wild and free, now twisted into monstrous servants of his will. The island of Mata Nui was no longer the paradise it had once been. The Matoran, biomechanical villagers who lived in harmony with the island's elements, now struggled to survive in the face of terror and oppression. The 6 elemental Matoran villages each reflected the unique environment of its region. Tokoro, a fortress of molten rock surrounded by fiery lava flows, was a place of intense heat, where the Matoran of fire guarded their home with unmatched bravery. Gakoro floated serenely on the water, its village perched atop enormous lily pads, yet its peace was frequently shattered by attacks from the corrupted sea creatures under Makuta's control. Kokoro clung to icy cliffs, a frozen city of solitude and reflection, where its inhabitants battled both the harsh cold and relentless Rahi assaults. Lekoro, high in the treetops of the lush jungle, swayed with the wind, a haven for the daring Matoran of air who fought to defend their canopy from airborne predators. Deep below the island, Onukoro's labyrinthine tunnels served as both a refuge and a battleground, its industrious Matoran of Earth fending off Rahi incursions in the darkness. Meanwhile, Pokoro sprawled across the arid desert, its stone-carved dwellings a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the Matoran of stone. Guiding the Matoran were the wise and enigmatic Turaga Vakama, Nokama, Matau, Onewa, Onewa, and Nuju, elders who carried the burden of preserving hope through the ancient prophecies of the Great Spirit. They spoke of 6 legendary warriors, each tied to an elemental power, who would descend from beyond the stars. These heroes, chosen by destiny, would stand against the shadow of Makuta and fulfill their sacred mission, to awaken the Great Spirit and restore balance to their world. One day, this prophecy began to unfold. 6 canisters washed ashore on the beaches of Mata Nui. From within these vessels emerged the Toa Mata, biomechanical heroes imbued with elemental powers. There was Tahu, the Toa of Fire, whose fiery temperament matched his searing power. Gali, the Toa of Water, a calm and wise figure whose empathy united her team. Kopaka, the solitary Toa of Ice, analytical and aloof but fiercely loyal. Lewa, the daring Toa of Air, who brought energy and playfulness even in the face of danger. Onua, the Toa of Earth, whose quiet strength and methodical thinking grounded the team. And Pohatu, the Toa of Stone, a cheerful and reliable ally known for his incredible speed. The Toa awoke with no memory of their origins or purpose, only an innate sense of duty that guided their actions. It was the Turaga who revealed their mission. The Toa are destined to awaken the Great Spirit Mata Nui and must recover the Kanohi masks of power. ancient relics scattered across the island. Each mask granted unique abilities, such as shielding, levitation, or enhanced strength, and only by collecting all 6 of their respective masks could the Toa unlock their full elemental potential. The journey was fraught with trials, danger, and self-discovery. In the desert canyons of Rahi, Pohatu raced against time and treacherous terrain to claim the Konohi Vakama, the Mask of Speed, while protecting the Matoran from an ambush by infected Rahi. Kopaka, deep within the icy sanctuaries of Rahi, uncovered the Konohi Kaku, the Mask of X-ray vision, by navigating through avalanches and outsmarting shadowy predators. Gali braved the depths of Garwahi's oceanic caves to retrieve the Konohi Kaukau, the Mask of Water Breathing, battling ferocious Tarakava and overcoming her own fear of isolation. Lewa's search for the Konohi Miru, the Mask of Levitation, took him high into the jungle canopy of Lewa, where he was ambushed by swarms of infected Nui Rama. Overwhelmed, he fell under Makuta's influence when his mask was replaced with a corrupted Konohi. Onua, called upon to rescue his fallen comrade, fought valiantly to free Lewa from Makuta's thrall, breaking the hold of darkness through sheer will and unity. Meanwhile, Tahu's quest took him through the volatile landscape of Tawahi. He confronted his own impatience and arrogance when his fiery temper led to a near-catastrophic eruption while retrieving a Konohi from the slopes of a volcano. Gali's intervention and calming presence prevented disaster, but their clash foreshadowed the internal struggles the Toa would face as a team. Their ultimate test awaited them deep beneath the island in Makuta's lair. The Turaga's guidance led them to the entrance of a vast cavern system, where the shadows grew heavier with each step. The air itself seemed to thrum with Makuta's presence, a suffocating aura that sought to erode their resolve. The tunnels were guarded by Makuta's most fearsome creations, massive mechanical beasts equipped with near impenetrable armor and relentless strength. The Toa discovered that by combining their powers, they could merge into powerful forms called Toa Kaita. Tahu, Pohatu, and Onua united to become Akamai, a being of strength and strategy. Gali, Lewa, and Kopaka formed Wairaha, the embodiment of wisdom and clarity. These forms allowed them to overpower the Manas, clearing a path to Makuta himself. When the Toa finally confronted Makuta, they did not find the monstrous titan they had imagined. Instead, the Master of Darkness appeared before them as a lone, decrepit Matoran. He taunted the Toa, belittling their quest and sowing doubt about their ability to awaken Mata Nui. As the Toa stood their ground, Makuta's form dissolved into a swirling void of shadow, his true essence manifesting as a chaotic storm of darkness and malice. Tentacles of shadow lashed out, testing the Toa's limits and driving them back with sheer force. No matter how fiercely they fought, Makuta's presence seemed invincible, an embodiment of fear and despair. Yet, the Toa had learned the true meaning of unity. Together, they channeled their elemental powers into a single blinding strike of light, shattering Makuta's shadowy form and banishing his presence, at least for a time. The Toa emerged victorious, and the Matoran celebrated their triumph, their spirits lifted for the first time in years. But even in their moment of joy, the Turaga warned that this was only the beginning. Mata Nui remained asleep, and while Makuta had been defeated, his shadow lingered in the corners of the island. Though the Toa Mata had defeated Makuta Teridax and banished his shadow from the island, their victory was short-lived. Even as the Matoran celebrated their newfound hope, strange tremors began to shake the island of Mata Nui. The Turaga, ever cryptic, spoke of an old warning from before the Matoran's time on the island. A warning about the Bohrok, creatures of destruction that were neither alive nor entirely machine. These cleaning machines were part of an ancient and mysterious system, designed to prepare the island for something greater that will be revealed later on in the Bionicle story. The Turaga's explanations were vague, leaving the Toa with more questions than answers. These insect-like machines burst forth from hidden nests deep beneath Mata Nui, spilling across the island in a tide of devastation. They moved in coordinated groups, each swarm tied to a specific elemental power. The Tanok, with their mastery over fire, ignited forests and burned villages to the ground. The Galok, creatures of water, flooded Garkoro with tidal waves, The Lewa, controlling acid, melted through the jungle canopies of Lewa. The Nuvok burrowed beneath Onua, causing cave-ins and threatening to collapse the entire underground village. The Korak, with their icy breath, froze entire regions of Kauai, while the Porak leveled the rocky deserts of Pokoro with their tremendous strength. Each Bohrok was controlled by a Krana, organic brains housed within the Bohrok's mechanical shells. These Krana were both the source of the Bohrok's power and their greatest weakness. The Toa realized that by capturing the Krana, they could disrupt the swarms and uncover the Bohrok's true purpose. The Krana themselves posed an additional danger. If a Krana latched onto a Toa, it would attempt to overwrite their mind, turning them into a servant of the Bohrok's mission. The majority of Lee Koro fell victim to the swarm. Even Toa Lewa was captured, succumbing to the control of the Krana and joining the swarms in their destructive march. The other Toa were forced to confront their friend, eventually freeing him from the Krana's influence. The Matoran aided greatly in the Toa's fight against the swarm. By modifying Bohrok that had lost their Krana, they converted them into powerful Boxer exosuits, using them to attack the Bohrok. The Toa's journey led them deep into the underground nests of the Bohrok, where they confronted the true source of the swarm's power, the Barag, twin queens who controlled the Bohrok with a hive mind intelligence. Kardok and Gardok were massive and imposing, their bodies protected by layers of impenetrable armor. Using the Krana they had collected, they unlocked powerful Exo-Toa suits mysteriously hidden in the Bohrok nests. Empowered by these suits, they felt confident in their victory. The queens unleashed the full might of the swarms, sending wave after wave of Bohrok to defend their hive. Overpowered, the Toa realized that the Exo-Toa suits were hindering them by draining their powers. Instead, they were once again compelled to unite their elemental powers in new and creative ways. Finally, the Toa unleashed a combined blast that created a prison out of a strange substance known as energized protodermis, trapping the Barag and severing their control over the swarms. After their surprise victory, the cave collapsed, and they fell into a pool of energized protodermis, a substance both dangerous and transformative. Emerging from the liquid, they found themselves changed. Their armor had been upgraded, their weapons enhanced, and their elemental powers strengthened. They had become the Toa Nuva, stronger and more capable than ever before. The Toa Nuva settled into their roles as protectors of the Matoran. But in the shadows of the defeated Bohrok nests, 6 new figures stirred to life. These were the Bohrok-Kal, elite variants of the Bohrok Swarms, imbued with immense power and sentience. Unlike the standard Bohrok, the Kal acted with independence and intelligence, each driven by a singular purpose: to free the Barag queens from their protodermis prison. Each Bohrok-Kal possessed a unique and terrifying power. Tanok-Kal, the Bohrok-Kal of electricity, could summon devastating lightning strikes that incapacitated its foes and fried their equipment. Parak-Kal unleashed intense plasma capable of melting through any obstacle, including the Toa Nuva's enhanced armor. Nuvok-Kal manipulated gravitational forces, pinning enemies to the ground or hurling them high into the air. Korak-Kal wielded sound waves as its weapon, producing deafening blasts that disoriented and immobilized its targets. Galok-Kal controlled magnetic fields with terrifying precision, disarming opponents by yanking away their tools and bending metal to its will. Lastly, Lewa-Kal created devastating voids that suffocated enemies or crushed them with the immense pressure of airless space. The Bohrok-Kal's emergence was swift and devastating. They began their mission by targeting the Toa Nuva, stealing their Nuva symbols, sacred artifacts tied to each Toa's elemental abilities. Without their symbols, the Toa's connection to their elemental powers was severed, leaving them weakened and vulnerable. Despite their loss of power, the Toa refused to give up. They tracked the Bohrok-Kal across the island, devising strategies to slow their progress. But the Toa had a secret weapon. After the defeat of the Bohrok Queens, the lifeless Bohrok had been reprogrammed by the Matoran. Leading an army of Tanok against the Nuvok-Kal, Tahu was sure of his victory. But using his control of gravity, the Nuvok-Kal made Tahu's Bohrok army float up into orbit. He then turned on Tahu, making him so heavy that he could not move. Elsewhere, the Toa tried transforming into their powerful Torquita forms, but the Bohrok-Kal easily countered this by combining together too. Almost everything the Toa tried ended in failure, and any victory seemed to only be temporary. However, Pohatu and Onua managed to remove the Krana-Kal from one of the Bohrok-Kal. But the Krana informed the Toa that their victory was pointless, as they had already found the location of the Bohrok Queens. Rushing to the nest, the Toa was surprised to see the Exo-Toa suits fighting the Bohrok-Kal, suggesting that these Exo-Toa might be a failsafe against the Bohrok left by another mysterious force. However, the Toa were unable to fully ponder on what was happening, as the Exo-Toa suits were soon destroyed by the Bohrok-Kal. The Bohrok-Kal then began using the Toa Nuva symbols they had stolen to free the queens from their prison. Fortunately, Tahu then used a secret weapon gifted to him by Turaga Vakama. It was the Mask of Time, one of the most powerful masks in existence. Slowing down time, this gave the Toa just enough time to come up with a plan before the queens could be released. The Toa, out of options, made a risky decision. They poured their remaining energy into the Nuva symbols, overloading them with elemental power. As the Bohrok-Kal tried to wield this energy, their singular focus became their undoing. The power coursing through the symbols backfired, overwhelming and destroying the Bohrok-Kal in a spectacular display of elemental chaos. The barracks prison held firm, and the Toa Nuva's elemental powers were restored. Even as the Toa Nuva worked tirelessly to rebuild and protect the island of Mata Nui, the shadows of Makuta's influence stirred once more. Far from defeated, Makuta Teridax watched from his lair deep beneath the island, devising a new plan to crush the Matoran and their protectors. This chapter began with an innocent discovery in Takoro. Takua, an adventurous and curious chronicler, stumbled upon a strange totem while exploring a forbidden lava cave. When the totem fell into the molten lava, it revealed something extraordinary, a great Kanohi mask glowing with otherworldly energy. Tahu, leader of the Toa Nuva, instructed Takua to bring the mask to the Turaga. The Turaga identified it as the Mask of Light, or the Evoki, a sacred artifact that foretold the coming of a seventh Toa of Light, a hero destined to bring light to the darkness and fulfill Mata Nui's will. When the Turaga declared that a herald must deliver the mask to its rightful owner, Takua tried to pass the responsibility to his friend Jala. Jala reluctantly agreed, appointing Takua as his traveling companion. Together, they set out on a perilous journey to uncover the seventh Toa, unaware of the dark forces moving against them. Makuta, realizing the danger posed by the Mask of Light, unleashed his most fearsome creations yet, the Rahkshi. The Rahkshi, dark creations born from Makuta's essence and animated by the sinister krater within them, each wielded a unique and devastating power that reflected their purpose as instruments of chaos and destruction. Turak, the Rahkshi of fear, could instill crippling dread in its enemies, paralyzing them with overwhelming terror and breaking their will to fight. Gurok, the Rahkshi of disintegration, possessed the power to reduce objects and structures to dust with a single touch, leaving ruin in its wake. Larak, the Rahkshi of poison, could corrupt and toxify its surroundings, making environments hostile and inflicting debilitating effects on its foes. Panrak, the Rahkshi of fragmentation, unleashed devastating blasts that shattered anything in its path into countless pieces. Vorak, the Rahkshi of absorption, drained the energy of its enemies, using their strength to bolster its own while leaving them weak and defenseless. Lastly, Kurak, the Rahkshi of anger, amplified rage and aggression in those around it, inciting conflict and turning allies against each other in chaos. Makuta released 3 Rahkshi, Panrak, Larak, and Gurok, to hunt down the mask and its bearers. The Rahkshi attacked Takoro, leaving destruction in their wake. The village was utterly destroyed, sinking into the lava as the Matoran fled to safety. In the icy mountains near Kokoro, the Rahkshi caught up with the pair of travelers. Fortunately, Kopaka, Toa of Ice, arrived just in time, freezing the Rahkshi in a lake and buying the travelers precious time. But the danger was far from over. Makuta, still manipulating events from the shadows, warned Takua that Jala would die if he did not surrender the mask. Stricken with guilt, Takua abandoned the quest, hoping to keep his friends safe. Meanwhile, Makuta unleashed 3 more Rahkshi, Kurak, Vorak, and Turak, escalating his efforts to retrieve the mask. The Toa Nuva battled valiantly against the Rahkshi, but their powers tested the Toa like never before. Lewak's poison and Kurak's manipulation of anger pushed Tahu to his limits, nearly breaking him before his fellow Toa intervened to heal him. Takua, realizing his mistake, returned to Jala and apologized, taking responsibility for the mask and his destiny. Their journey led them to the Kini Nui Temple, the sacred heart of the island, where the Rahkshi launched a final assault. The Toa Nuva arrived to hold off the creatures, but Tarak broke through, targeting Takua. In a heroic act, Jala took the blast meant for his friend, sacrificing himself. Stricken by grief but fueled by resolve, Takua finally accepted his destiny. Placing the mask of light on his face, he transformed into Takanuva, the Toa of Light. Descending to Makuta's lair, Takanuva was intent on destroying the Makuta once and for all. As Takanuva confronted the Makuta, the Master of Shadows claimed that Mata Nui's sleep preserved the fragile order of the universe, and that the Toa's actions would invite disaster. Despite Makuta's warnings, Takanuva pressed on. Their battle, set in the shadows of the lair, was a ferocious clash of light and darkness. Makuta used every tactic to undermine Takanuva's resolve, attempting to drown him in doubt and fear, but Takanuva's light was relentless. Above, the Toa Nuva and Turaga realized that if they wanted to awaken the Great Spirit, they too would have to descend into Makuta's cave. Just as the Toa and Turaga entered Makuta's lair, the battle reached its zenith. Takanuva attempted to remove the Makuta's mask of shadows, and both combatants were thrown into a vat of energized protodermis. The energy of their clash caused an extraordinary reaction, fusing Takanuva and Makuta into a single entity, Takuta Nuva, a being that embodied both light and shadow. Takuta Nuva opened a massive gate within Makuta's cave, a gate that connected the island of Mata Nui to the ancient home of the Matoran, the island of Metru Nui. Using his immense power, Takuta Nuva brought Jala back to life before being crushed by the gate. However, using the Mask of Light, Takanuva was also revived, and the Great Spirit was finally reawoken after 1,000 years of slumber. While they celebrated this miraculous turn of events, the Toa were left with lingering questions. Was Makuta truly gone, or had his spirit merely retreated into the shadows? And more importantly, was there a grain of truth to his warning that awakening Mata Nui might unleash something far worse? The answer to their profound questions would soon be answered. As the Matoran of Mata Nui celebrated their victories and the return of light to their island, the Turaga gathered the villagers to reveal a secret they had kept for centuries. The Matoran had always believed their history began on Mata Nui, but the Turaga explained that this was not their first home. Long before the Matoran came to the island, they had lived in a place of wonder and innovation, the grand metropolis of Metru Nui. And with the Makuta guarding the gate to Metru Nui defeated and the Great Spirit awoken, the Matoran could finally return home. Gathering the Toa Nuva, the Turaga revealed that 1,000 years ago, they too had been Toa. This next chapter of the story, the Turaga's story, begins 1,000 years before the events that occurred on the island of Mata Nui, set within the bustling utopia of Metru Nui. We will reveal the harrowing story of how the Makuta had forced the Matoran from Metru Nui and put the Great Spirit into an eternal slumber. The road to Metru Nui's ruin began with the machinations of Makuta Teridax. Acting in secret, Makuta kidnapped Metru Nui's leader, Turaga Doom, and replaced him with a robotic duplicate under his control. Makuta Teridax, who at this point was meant to be the protector of the city, also reprogrammed Metru Nui's police force, the Vaki. Instead of defending the city, the Vaki turned into brutal enforcers that ensured no Matoran stepped out of line. He ordered the city's remaining Toa on impossible missions, where they were systematically hunted down and killed by Makuta's sidekick, Eliminator. One by one, the Toa of Metru Nui fell, leaving Tole Khan the last defender of the city. Desperate to create more Toa from the city's Matoran, Likan stole 6 Toa stones from the Great Temple, imbuing them with his power. But he was pursued by 2 of Makuta's minions, Likan's corrupted brother, Nidiki, and Kreka, who were members of the Dark Hunters, a shadowy cartel of mercenaries that will become more relevant later on in the Bionicle story. As Nadiki and Kreka closed in, Likan embarked on a desperate mission to deliver the stones. The Toa stones reached their destined Matoran, the future Turaga, just in time. However, Likan was captured during his final delivery to Vakama, a fire Matoran and mask maker. Vakama struggled with an impossible request from Turaga Doom himself, the creation of the Mask of Time. Makuta's manipulation of Vakama was calculated. He sought to use the Rahi to control time itself and solidify his dominion. The 6 chosen Matoran gathered at the Great Temple, not knowing the true purpose of the Toa stones. They activated the Toa stones, transforming them into the Toa Metru, the new protectors of Metru Nui. But there was no time for celebration. The city was already descending into chaos. Makuta had unleashed the Morbizak, a sentient, plant-like creature that grew uncontrollably across the city, destroying buildings, kidnapping Matoran, and forcing survivors to retreat toward the Colosseum. The Morbizak was designed to destabilize the city and spread fear, ensuring the Matoran would obey Doom's orders without question. Vakama's visions revealed the existence of the Great Discs, ancient Kanoka with the power to destroy the Morbizak. Despite interference from Varkian forces, the Toa successfully rescued the Matoran and recovered the discs. Using the combined power of the Great Discs, they destroyed the creature, ending its reign of terror. When the Toa Metru finally reached the Colosseum, they hoped to be hailed as heroes. Armed with the Great Discs they had painstakingly collected, they presented them as proof of their bravery and worthiness. But instead of gratitude, they faced hostility. Turaga Doom branded them imposters, claiming they had failed their trials of strength and resolve. He ordered the Varkian forces to capture them, forcing the Toa into a desperate fight for survival. Separated during the chaos, Vakama, Nokama, and Matau found themselves on the run, evading relentless Varki patrols, dark hunters, and even a chance encounter with the massive Rahi, Tartorak. Meanwhile, Onewa, Wenua, and Nuju were imprisoned in the Colosseum, alongside a mysterious, seemingly senile Turaga. Under his watch, they were made to complete nonsensical tasks that only deepened their frustration. But events took a turn when Onewa and Nuju, in a heated argument over their plight, accidentally unlocked their mask powers. With newfound abilities, the 3 Toa escaped their prison, bringing the enigmatic Turaga along with them. Elsewhere, Vakama, Nokama, and Matau followed a mysterious sign, the appearance of Likan's spirit star over Toa Metru. Believing it to be a clue, they pushed forward. Along the way, Vakama began experimenting with the Great Discs, finding that he could merge them to create something greater. It was then that inspiration struck. The Mask of Time, the Rahi, began to take form in his mind. The Toa reunited in the underground tunnels of Metru Nui, where the mysterious Turaga revealed his identity. He was Likan. When the Toa Metru had been created, it had drained his power, turning him into a Turaga. Likan also led them to a shocking discovery: the real Turaga Doom, unconscious and sealed in a silver sphere. With the truth exposed, the Toa raced to the Colosseum to confront the imposter. But they were too late. When they arrived, they found the entire Matoran population sealed inside silver spheres, unconscious, mind-wiped, and ready to be transported. The imposter revealed himself at last: Makuta Teridax, Master of Shadows. The Toa watched in horror as Makuta's plan came to fruition. A virus released by Makuta 300 years earlier was finally taking hold on the Great Spirit Mata Nui, causing him to fall into a deep coma. The world began to unravel. The Great Spirit's fall triggered what would become known as the Great Cataclysm, a series of devastating events that shook the universe to its core. Darkness descended upon the island. Earthquakes ravaged Metru Nui, toppling its grand towers and flooding the archives, while Rahi creatures, once held in stasis, were unleashed upon the city. Makuta then absorbed the Dark Hunters Nadiki, Kreka, and his pet bird Nivork into his form, fusing their power with his own. With the city in ruins and the Matoran helpless, the Toa Metru had no choice but to flee. They grabbed 6 spheres containing Matoran and strapped them to a transport, vowing to return for the rest. As they made their escape, Vakama completed the Mask of Time, the Rahi. This gave him a vision of a crack in the Great Barrier surrounding the city, so he guided the Toa toward it. Makuta, enraged by their defiance, intercepted them. Vakama stood alone against the Dark Lord, using the Vahi to slow time and gain an edge, but controlling the mask proved too much for him. When Makuta fired a deadly blast, Lacan sacrificed himself to save Vakama, taking the blow. The Mask of Time was knocked off Vakama's face, with Makuta rushing off to retrieve it. Mourning Lacan's death, Vakama finally unlocked his mask power of concealment. Striking the Mask of Time from Makuta Teridax's hands, Vakama confronted the Lord of Shadow yet again. With the power of invisibility, Vakama evaded Makuta's absorbing arm, driving Teridax into a rage. Finally, the Toa tricked the Makuta into pulling a large rock onto himself, slamming him against a wall. Reunited, the Toa worked together to trap the injured Makuta in a prison of solid protodermis, sealing him away in a permanent prison. The Toa Metru escaped through the crack in the Metru Nui city barrier seen in Vakama's visions, uncovering a strange, uninhabited, lush island. They named this new land Mata Nui in honor of the now slumbering Great Spirit. The Toa began preparing the island as a refuge, determined to rebuild a new life. But darkness still lingered beneath the ocean. In the ruins of Metru Nui, Makuta Teridax sent out a telepathic call for aid. His message reached Sidorak, the ruthless commander of the Visorak Horde, and his cunning lieutenant, Rudaka, who led their spider-like armies to the ruined city. The Visorak quickly claimed Metru Nui as their domain, webbing entire districts in their thick, venomous silk. But who were these new villains? Until now, it seemed Makuta Teridax was a lone antagonist, aided only occasionally by mercenaries like the Dark Hunters or automatons like the Vakhi. But the truth was far more sinister. Teridax was just one of many, a member of a shadowy organization known as the Brotherhood of Makuta, with Teridax himself at its helm. This secretive group wielded immense power, with each Makuta overseeing a different region of the Matoran universe. Originally, their purpose was noble. They were creators and protectors, tasked with crafting Rahi and plants to populate the universe or safeguarding Mata Nui, the Great Spirit. In the early days of the Bionicle universe, the Brotherhood played a crucial role in maintaining balance. They stopped the Matoran civil war and crushed the rebellious League of Six Kingdoms, a powerful faction we'll be meeting later on. Teridax, in particular, was so close to Mata Nui that the two often referred to each other as brothers. But over the course of 100,000 years, the Makuta began to change. They grew ambitious and corrupt, abandoning their light and transforming into beings of pure shadow. Their growing hunger for power culminated in their betrayal of Mata Nui during the Great Cataclysm. After the Cataclysm, the Brotherhood of Makuta revealed themselves as a force of evil, effectively declaring war on the rest of the universe. Their servants, Rudaka and Sidorak, led the Brotherhood's spider-like creations, the Visorak Horde, in an invasion of Metru Nui. The Toa Metru, though, were completely unaware of these events. Returning to Metru Nui to collect the remaining Matoran, they were shocked to find it overrun by webs of shadows. The Toa Metru made their way to the Colosseum, believing they could take the Visorak head-on. But the Horde was ready. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the Toa were webbed and dragged to the heart of the Visorak's lair. There, Rudaka personally oversaw their punishment, exposing them to Hordika venom. Their bodies were grotesque hybrids of Toa and Rahi, their limbs twisted, their minds plagued by primal instincts. They had become Toa Hordika, monstrous versions of their former selves. Their transformation granted them new abilities, such as the ability to fire Ratuka spinners, but at the cost of their sanity. Before the Visorak could execute the Toa, they were saved by the Rahaga, 6 mysterious beings who had once been Toa themselves. The Rahaga revealed their tragic past. They had been transformed into their current forms by Rudaka, their sworn enemy. Despite their small size and limited strength, the Rahaga had dedicated their lives to opposing the Visorak and aiding Rahi. The Rahaga told the Toa about Kitongu, a legendary Rahi with the power to reverse the venom's effects. However, Kitongu was a figure of myth, and even the Rahaga doubted his existence. Vakama, already struggling with the feral instincts of his Hordika form, grew increasingly frustrated and alienated from his team. Hordika, sensing his vulnerability, abducted Vakama and offered him command of the Visorak Horde. She promised him the power to save the Matoran on his own terms. Consumed by anger and doubt, Vakama accepted her offer. Now leading the Visorak, Vakama attacked the Great Temple, capturing the Rahaga and leaving a Rahaga Norik behind as a message for his former teammates. The Toa Hordika, disheartened by Vakama's betrayal, followed Norik's advice and sought out Kitongu. The Toa Hordika and Norik found Kitongu, who eventually agreed to help in their fight. Together, they stormed the Colosseum, where the Visorak had fortified their headquarters. While most of the Toa fought the Visorak to free the Matoran spheres, Matau confronted Vakama, desperately trying to reach the Vakama he once knew. Meanwhile, Kitongu climbed up the main Colosseum tower to face Sidorak and Hordika. Sidorak attempted to shoot the Rahi down, but he was a lousy shot. Hordika, though, was far more competent, using her spear to one-shot Kitongu. As Kitongu fell to the ground, a massive explosion enveloped the battlefield. Seeing her chance to finally get rid of the incompetent Sidorak, she insisted that he go down to finish Kitongu off. Hordika left Sidorak alone with the towering Kitongu, who quickly disposed of the cowardly leader of the Visorak. Elsewhere, as the Toa regrouped, Vakama's anger nearly drove him to kill Matau, but Matau's words brought him back to his senses, and he rejoined the Toa. As the battle raged on, the Toa were eventually surrounded, before being struck by a giant spinner from the giant golden Visorak, Kalgarak. Riding upon the Kalgarak, Hordika confronted the Toa, demanding they give up their powers to her. Still feigning loyalty, Vakama handed over Matau to Hordika. The Toa shot their Rotuka spinners at Hordika, but without Vakama, the Toa were not united, and their power had no effect on her. It was at this moment that Vakama revealed he had turned back to the light. Using the authority granted to him by Hordika, he freed the Visorak army from the Brotherhood's slavery. After scattering the Visorak army, Vakama shot his Rotuka spinner at Hordika. However, this was all part of her plan. Within her chestplate was a shard from Makuta Teridax's prison. As her body fell to the ground, the combined energy from all 6 Toa shattered Makuta's prison, freeing him from his confines. Before the Toa could stop her, Makuta teleported Hordika away, leaving the team victorious but uneasy. With the Visorak gone, Kitongu cured the Toa Hordika, restoring them to their original forms. Together with the Rahaga, they loaded the Matoran spheres onto airships and prepared to leave for Mata Nui. As the airships carrying the slumbering Matoran approached the shores of Mata Nui, Vakama's thoughts turned to unfinished business. The Mask of Time had been lost during the Toa Metru's battle with Makuta Teridax. Its immense power made it too dangerous to leave behind in the ruins of Metru Nui. Determined to retrieve it, Vakama dove from the airship into the dark waters below, embarking on one final secret mission. In the ruins of Metru Nui, Vakama navigated the broken city, scouring the wreckage of their past battles. After an arduous search, he finally found the mask. The mask was damaged, leaking unstable temporal energy that warped the environment around it, causing plants to grow at unnatural speeds and wildlife to mutate. Using his mask-making skills, Vakama repaired the Vahi, stabilizing its power. Just as he completed his work, he was ambushed by Voparak, a Dark Hunter. Voparak had been created by the powerful and ancient leader of the Dark Hunters, the Shadowed One, specifically to track the Mask of Time. Towering over Vakama, Voparak struck him unconscious and claimed the Mask of Time. When Vakama awoke, he found himself back in a pristine Metru Nui. The Great Cataclysm had seemingly never occurred, and he was no longer a Toa, but a powerless Matoran. Convinced that the mask's instability had sent him back in time, Vakama sought answers. His suspicions grew as he caught fleeting glimpses of the true ruined Metru Nui. Strange inconsistencies began to pile up, leading him to believe this was a fake reality. Just as he thought things couldn't get any stranger, Vakama encountered an organic Rahi that latched onto his face. He was thrown into an important vision of the future sent by a future Toa of Sonics. He spoke of the emergence of the Toa Inika, a team destined to face unimaginable peril. Before Vakama could fully process the vision, he was torn from it, and found himself face to face with Makuta Teridax. Teridax revealed the truth. Vakama had been placed under a powerful illusion. The Master of Shadows had found him unconscious after Voporak's attack and had hoped to extract the location of the Mask of Time through the illusion. Learning that Voporak had taken the mask, Teridax proposed a temporary alliance to reclaim it. Reluctantly, Vakama agreed, knowing the Rahi could not remain in the Shadowed One's hands. Tracking Voporak to the Great Temple, Vakama and Teridax confronted the Shadowed One, who now possessed the Mask of Time. Accompanied by his loyal bodyguard, Sentrak, the Shadowed One turned on Vakama, blaming the Toa Metru for the deaths of Nadiki and Kreka, proclaiming that he will exact his revenge. But Vakama revealed that it was not the Toa Metru, but Teridax that was responsible for their demise. Realizing that Teridax still had parts of Nadiki and Kreka fused to his body, the Shadowed One unleashed his full fury on the Makuta. The battle between the Shadowed One and Teridax was nothing short of cataclysmic. The Shadowed One's disintegrating eye beams tore through Makuta's armor, destroying parts of his chestplate and wings. In retaliation, Teridax unleashed waves of shadow energy, cloaking the battlefield in darkness and summoning Rahkshi reinforcements to distract the Dark Hunters. Amid the chaos, Vakama saw his chance. Using his jetpack, he darted into the fray and seized the Mask of Time from the Shadowed One. Furious, the Shadowed One targeted Vakama's jetpack with a precise eye beam, sending him spiraling toward the Great Furnace. Before the Shadowed One could follow, Teridax intervened, hurling the Dark Hunter leader into Voporak. The brief contact with Voporak's temporal radiation aged the Shadowed One thousands of years, forcing him to retreat. But the Shadowed One vowed that the Dark Hunters would no longer deal with the Makuta. Instead, he declared war upon the Brotherhood, in a war that would last 1,000 years. As Vakama crash-landed beneath the Great Furnace, he found himself cornered by Teridax. With no other options, Vakama threatened to destroy the Mask of Time. Wounded by his battle with the Shadowed One, reluctantly, Teridax agreed to a truce. He vowed to leave the island of Mata Nui untouched for 1 year, and to spare Turaga Dume, Kitongu, and the Rahaga left behind on Metru Nui. Satisfied, Vakama fled with the Mask of Time, returning to Mata Nui. Back on Mata Nui, the Toa Metru revived the sleeping Matoran by sacrificing their Toa power, transforming into Turaga. However, when placing the Matoran into their sleep, the Makuta had wiped their memories. The Matoran had no memory of their duty, destiny, or unity. Together, the Turaga guided the Matoran in building their villages, knowing that this new peace would not last forever. For 1,000 years, the Turaga watched over the Matoran, teaching them the 3 virtues and defending them from the Makuta's machinations until the arrival of the Toa Mata. Back in the present time, the Toa Mata was stunned by the Turaga's revelations of how the Matoran had come to reside on Mata Nui. But the Turaga had a greater revelation still. Although the Great Spirit of Mata Nui had been awoken by the courageous acts of the Toa Mata, the Makuta had in fact been correct. Mata Nui's slumber had been protecting him from total destruction, and now he was awake once more. The Great Spirit was dying. The only way to save him was to retrieve the Ignika, the Mask of Life. Brace yourselves for the next chapters where the stakes skyrocket and the twists hit hard. We'll follow the Toa on their perilous quest for the Mask of Life, uncover the sinister schemes of the Brotherhood of Makuta, and unravel a mind-blowing revelation that will completely redefine everything you thought you knew about the Bionicle universe. See you in the next video.